from the podcast, Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk. It's Grant's Rants Small Talk. Real Housewives of New York City Rundown.
Let the ranting begin. It is Real Housewives of New York City, Season 12, Episode 8. I hate this title. It's too long. If you can't take the heat, get out of the Russian bathhouse. Oh, God. Who is naming these episodes and why? I am joined by good friend. This is going to be a nice episode. Fern Ronay. Welcome.
Hi.
It's good to hear your voice.
Oh, it's so good to hear your voice. I miss you.
Same. I miss everything. I'm late with this episode. Yes. I produced about 5 episodes for another project this week, and I have no idea what day it is. So this was the very first moment I could get to this. So here we are. I want to get your thoughts, first of all, on this season. Just some highlights. I think this episode really picked up for me. It slowed down a little bit in the middle, but there's so much in this episode. I don't know how we're going to cover it in 30 minutes or less. What are you thinking?
It was a great episode. I last week was loving Sonia halfway through the episode, and I even posted on my stories. I'm like, I love her. And then she goes and pees in a vineyard, and I was like, you idiot. Like, I defended you. She was such a mess, but I love her. And then this episode was also like just out of control, but I love it. I'm like, I always love New York. I always say a crappy season of New York is better than a good season in any other franchise.
Mm-hmm. You have said that. I remember you saying that in the past. And yeah, I agree. I mean, look, there was so much. I have so many notes for this episode, and I couldn't even get all the little things, like the little nods and stuff that I like, like Sonia saying something like she said those 4 words, I respect you. Like, still like little stupid things like
right. I was like, wasn't it 3 words? Like, I had to stop for a second.
Yeah. Like, there was just so much of that in this episode. I couldn't keep it all down on this little legal pad. But it starts off, as they usually do, with these dueling groups. You got 3-on-3, Leah, Luann, Tinsley having lunch, and then the other 3 taking, for whatever reason, some type of fitness class, which is typical housewives. Leah says she's allergic to everything, including the BS on the orchard trip. They're all sick. And then they talk about how bad, crazy Sonia was, and the aggressive reaction everybody had towards Tinsley, or at least Dorinda. Dorinda is really looking bad this season. She just is.
And I love her, but she's really looking bad. She just is like in so much pain. It's so obvious. And I looked up today. I was like, when did Richard die? It was in 2011. So I just feel like, yeah, she's still grieving, and that's fine. Like, grief's personal. There's no timeline, and she's just in a lot of pain. And it's sad because she's such a great person. I love her.
Yeah, I sometimes I get angry with her when I see her being so evil about, like, your gum lasts long, my gum lasts longer than your relationship, you're irrelevant. And then other times I can relate to her with just the frustrations of life, the pressure. I mean, I don't lash out like that, but I can understand, like, when you're going through a lot. Yeah, I get it.
She's just like, I just think she's in so much pain, and she takes it out on, like, Tinsley's the little lamb of the group. Like, who can she slaughter?
Yeah.
Tinsley. Like, anybody else would have, like, really fought back, but Tinsley's just like, she's like, it was taking it out on her because she's so, anger comes out, like, in so many different, there's so many different reasons, and I think she's just a sad person. It's really, like, bubbling up.
I was going to say Luann would be another good contender for her, but she already did that. We already sat through that.
Yeah.
I have to give props to Sonia, who's a superstar, for showing up to this exhale class the day after throwing up in a moving van.
Oh my God. She's the champ. I love Sonia. She's embarrassing, and the Morgan family, I'm sure, is so mortified.
Of course.
That she carries their name, like, and it's been just going on for so long. Like, she's just tarnished their name in the most amazing ways.
They had a moment. They kept it in where she introduced herself to the workout instructor, whose name was Bergen. She said, "Oh, so not Birdie." And I was like, why did they keep that? And it reminded me of the charity event with Birdie.
Yes! Her name was Bridie, and she kept calling, and Sonia couldn't get it right. None of them could get it right.
No. Oh, I'm so glad they kept that in. See, I just, the eagle-eye people like me enjoyed little things like that. Well, what else happened? They all judged Tinsley at that orchard thing. Dorinda said it was a beautiful day. I mean, I think she was the only one that thought so. And then typical BS. I'm telling you, I couldn't get over this just because of what happened later in the episode. But Dorinda attends this Dr. Darrell, a life coach session. And, it's almost like when you get called into the principal's office, like, I just wasn't doing anything wrong. Just had a bad day. Like, it's okay. She's just keeping everything pretty light when it comes to Tinsley. Oh, she's just a source of anger and frustration only because I want Tinsley to be the best she can be.
Such BS. No, you took it out on her because you're a sad person who does not need a life coach. You need a therapist. My mother pointed out that Tinsley's living this life where she doesn't have any really big problems. She's whatever. And Dorinda has major problems. She needs therapy. She needs help. That's fine. She's had some crazy bad things happen. She needs help, and she's taking it out on the little lamb who's just bouncing around New York City.
Yeah, I didn't think the message was very clear, Dorinda, that you wanted Tinsley to be the best person when you had your finger in her face telling her kindergarten is starting and, that she buys her own shoes or whatever. I mean, it was so
That's
mean.
Your motive, Dorinda?
Yeah, I didn't know that was an empowering speech. This show always there to support other women. That is the theme of New York, apparently.
Exactly. Women supporting women.
And so she talks more about Bluestone Manor, Richard. She's tied to the past. And then she wants to have a moment of complete selfishness. And, I just don't get it. Where was the moment she stopped taking care of herself? The minute she hooked up with John immediately, joining the Housewives. I don't exactly see her taking care of everybody.
Right. You have a grown daughter. You don't let John sleep over. You have independent lives. That's not it either. She's just missing the mark left and right. And she needs someone who can point to exactly what's going on for her because she's not getting it.
Yeah. I love, and I said the same thing about Tinsley. I'm just going to focus on me. Well, when did that stop? When were you not focused?
Right.
That's all we see on this show. It's, going out to eat and people taking care of themselves with buying expensive things and going on vacation. I wish.
Right.
I wish. Well, let's talk about this Wall Street Bath and Spa 88 downtown, a Russian bathhouse. We're led to believe it's full of character, but is it clean? What do you think?
Oh, especially so we're recording this during life in these Corona times, and I just was as my mother would say, I was skeeved out. I wouldn't touch anything. I wouldn't let them come near me. I wouldn't go near it now, certainly. But even before this, you got to be careful with spas. I don't know.
That's a place I feel like you could, and this is anywhere, but I feel like you could pick up a planter's wart.
Totally. That would be the least of it. You could really get an STD just sitting on the bench.
I'm just briefly looking at their Yelp business review, and there are 3 out of 5 stars posted here. I don't really, I'm not really getting into all of it, but there are some not so great reviews. I just can't imagine it's not the Hudson Yards, Equinox Hotel status, but whatever. What's interesting is I guess they made them take down all these pictures because in the front entry where it looks like a log cabin with the staircase, there were all pictures of celebrities who have attended this spa and they were not hung up during the show. So there's an inside tip for you.
Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah.
They made them take
Good
them
observation.
down. I guess they didn't want to blur all those faces of nobody. So I don't see anybody. It's not like Jennifer Aniston graced the presence of downtown.
Right.
But Leah wants Tinsley to go gangster on Dorinda. And Dorinda's intrigued by this. Whatever. I have no idea what's going on. Ramona, she walks in, forever the peacekeeper. Immediately, she plans to tell Dorinda that she's a bully. Well, what could go wrong with that?
Right. Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be very well received on a spa day. I'm telling her. I'm just going to tell her you're a bully. Well, I'm sure she'll accept that criticism.
Right. That'll go smooth.
Yeah. So what else? Ramona then slams Sonia's what's the word? Décolletage? What is it?
Oh my God. She is, this whole episode, I was like, Ramona is just, I mean, she's always been a bad friend. Like, that's just, we could point these things out over the years, but this episode like captured them all. She talks about people behind their back. She says rude things to their face. She brings up the past. She doesn't want to see people do well. Like, it hits all the marks of Ramona being a bad friend. And that was the thing that I was like, did she just say that about Sonia, her dear friend?
Yeah.
She's so rude.
I mean, it's common with women who get older, and mainly I think from like just sun exposure and stuff, and I could be wrong, but like I looked at Sonia, she looked good to me. I didn't see where it was all like
crepey.
It's just such an unnecessary comment. And the way she posed it as, you guys are youngsters, so, you don't have to worry about this. But Sonia, she does. It's really bad on her. Like, what is that supposed to be a compliment? How is that constructive?
She just is a crap friend. Terrible.
I mean, when I get, she'll never get it. I mean, if you're even like after all these years, she's been on the show the longest, and she can't look back and see her and reflect on her behavior by now, it'll never change.
Exactly.
I love the arrivals, especially Luann, who's acting so above it. She's in this black blazer with a bathing suit underneath, and she's just looking at this entrance of this building. She can't get over that she's about to enter the spa. Now, as a former New York girl, have you ever been down there? Not to the spa itself, but are you familiar with the area?
Yes, very. I worked down there. I worked in the World Financial Center, so I know that area. And the thing about New York is, like, everything from the outside isn't what it is on the inside. So like there could be, like this storefront with a bodega next door and whatever, a gym next door.
Graffiti, closed gates.
Right. And then you could walk into like a beautiful spa. Like you just really never know with New York, or you could walk into the Russian bathhouse. But you just never know with New York. So I was surprised they were being so judgy, but they were kind of like hamming it up for the camera.
Yeah, we never come downtown unless if we're summoned,
Right.
I don't know. I've never had the pleasure of living that lifestyle. When I'm in New York, I kind of go all over. So, but I imagine like me, like I don't enjoy going to the Valley, for instance. So I'm sure I'd have something to say about that. So maybe that's how they feel about going downtown.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Then there's this whole thing with these wet leaves, and Ramona finds it, a little sensual. I don't know. I think, I'm trying to think if I would participate. Tinsley didn't. I think I would just because I'm there, but I would definitely take a deep shower when I got out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Full, like, detox. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really actually appreciate the fact that they went to this place and it wasn't a stuffy spa, because I think it'd be so boring. And we've seen that in so many different vacations.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw that at the Borgata on New Jersey Housewives or somebody. Like they had a whole spa day there, and it was just like, It was very hotel spa. Like it just wasn't very interesting.
Yeah, this was good fish out of water. Getting beet leaves. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they go in for this lunch, which I forgot that this was also a spa and restaurant. I think,
clean.
How can you do both well?
Right.
How can you clean someone's feet and also serve a kale salad well?
A hand-tossed kale salad, right? Oh. Just gross.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was a little odd. And even Sonia, we saw the status of the townhouse. Even she thought the in-dining hot tub was gross.
Right? She looked at it and they caught her say, like, yeah, gross, right? She who has yellow ice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very odd. I just imagine, and this is so my mother, but I imagine that whole spot just smells like mold. Again, how can you do all that and do it right? You've got a hot tub next to where you're eating. People are in and out of it. How are you keeping that clean and not moldy?
I don't know. Although I hope they survive. Now in these times, I'm like, any small business, I'm like, oh God.
I know.
Hope there are 30 people who love the Russian spa and never stop going. Well, I won't be there, but
it will always be popular, as we learn later, with strippers and Wall Street guys. So I think it'll be okay.
Their clientele.
Yeah. I love at the lunch they're talking about the next trip. This is just it's becoming a little paint by numbers on this show. It's like every other episode we have to have this like activity or trip And it's going to happen with Mexico. Thank you to all of those listeners who let me know that, yes, they're going to Mexico for a trip. I didn't know that. Now I know. Thank you. But now the next thing is going to be a Rhode Island trip.
15 minutes.
With Dorinda saying that she wanted to take a boat ride from Jamestown to Newport or to Jamestown. And that's something I do when I go home in the summer. It's my favorite thing to do when I'm there. There's nothing like it. It's just, again, I'm from Rhode Island, so it was cool to hear that that's something that she wants to do. I doubt we'll see it because that's a little out of season.
Oh, I always wanted to go to Newport. It has everything I love. I always wanted to tour those mansions.
Yeah, that's what my dad does, actually.
Yeah, I know. Mansions. That's so cool.
Yeah, well, Leah wants to acknowledge the Orchard trip, that it was an S show. And indeed it was. Dorinda's like, I acknowledge it, which means absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Exactly. Not a thing. She didn't take any ownership, really. Yeah.
And then Ramona decided this was the right time to have her moment. She has the floor. I respect you tremendously. I love you. You're just the best, but you hurt people. Such a tactless moment.
Ramona, who later, like mere minutes later, supposedly told Sonia she has to lose 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we get that later, which is like, right. Why bother holding back?
Hurt people?
Well,
she's right about Dorinda. Like, Dorinda said horrendous things that were just so below the belt. But Ramona is the last one at that table who should talk. And she's so the type of person, like that type of friend who has to like bring up the past. And like here she actually, I'll give it to her. She had a good point because maybe Dorinda does say things that are just below the belt. And she brought up the Luann thing and the mugshot. And she shouldn't have done that. But she was right. Like she had to make a point. I thought, and I can't stand Ramona, and I thought she was right.
Yeah, I mean, she has a point. The flashbacks back it up. You know, Dorinda did, like you said, she did turn it on Ramona, kind of like you, kind of like what you do, which is true, but it defeats the point of the conversation. But yeah, Ramona probably was the worst person at that table to make that comment because she's never going to get that conversation off the ground.
No, they could have in that moment done a montage of all the horrible things, below the belt things Ramona has said.
They have in the past. I mean, just recycle it.
Later in this episode too. Like she does the exact same thing.
You know what they should do? I just had a moment in my mind. They have all this footage and all these flashbacks. I know one of the soap operas, General Hospital, they added in a bunch of flashbacks to kind of, push out the amount of episodes they had in the can to make them run longer. The series ran longer. I know there are series orders and money involved, but like New York, they should really expand the season and just throw in those moments. And that way we can double up on these episodes. They don't have to move so quick. I want to see what was cut. I'm okay watching them getting spot treatments for another segment. We only got maybe 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
I need a little bit more from the show.
This season is shorter.
I think so. Well, I think it's about this. It's not long like Atlanta and Beverly Hills for whatever reason.
Yeah, those are like usually 23.
Yeah, about that. So,
and New York's the best one. Yeah,
I want more. Ramona says, "Oh my God, there's so much more. We're almost at the end here. My goodness." Ramona says Dorinda goes for the jugular, and they talk about behavior. There's this great moment that I put on Instagram of Ramona angrily eating a salad. Which I really loved. She says that Dorinda's behavior is scary, but Dorinda again turns it around on her, says, yeah, I've been very scared of you. Too much, though. So they claim at the end, they get absolutely nowhere. Mm-hmm. And then they say, oh, everyone respects and supports everyone here, and nobody's judging each other. Completely BS, total falsity, absolutely ridiculous, no solution.
Exactly. None.
We got nowhere with that. And they're like, we'll never talk about it again. Well, they do realize that the card reader over there on Zoom is going to have to be asking them questions in a couple weeks.
Right.
So it's not going to be over. What'd you think of Leah's sister? Basically, I think Leah in a brunette wig.
Exactly. I couldn't believe how much they looked alike. Yes.
She's still all worried about her mom being pissed at her. This is going to have to play out on the show now. This is officially a storyline.
Yeah. It is. And she, like Leah, I haven't warmed to her, but I think she's great for the show. But she says things that I'm like, this girl, like, there is so much there, and I want to meet the mom. We haven't met the mom yet, right?
Not yet. We got our first picture this week.
Yeah. She's one I want to see.
I agree. Ramona, we always keep track of her social climbing in an informal segment on the rundown. This episode, it had to do with the groups of women that she puts together to network. And there they were. Elise, front and center. She can't miss an episode. Going through her drawers, looking for condoms. I noticed that in one of the drawers, Ramona had a cartoon of herself saying, acquire some taste.
Not surprised.
And then Sonia brings up her Century 21 dress. And then Dorinda arrives. Sonia tells her about the 10 pounds. And this instantly ignites what I think the small fire that Dorinda had walking into the apartment.
Yes. Because we didn't see the 10 pounds on camera, right? I was like, did I miss that?
No, we did not. No.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yes. Dorinda went in.
Yeah.
And this was the other time, like, the thing she said about Schadenfreude, I'm like, that is so true about another Ramona. Just file it in, like, if there are people in your life like Ramona, just cut them off. Like, she is so the type to doesn't wish bad, but doesn't want you to do better than them. And doesn't, if she hears like, oh, they broke up, or, I think it makes her happy. Like, she is just that unevolved.
Yeah, like the pleasure of something bad happening to somebody. Yeah. I the way this was presented though, with them doing like the Google Translate, like Schadenfreude, like
right, like they'd never heard that before. And I love how
I have not been familiar with that personally, so I was like, I thought this was another Dorinda like Tyler Perry quote situation where I'm like, all right, what do you have queued up on your phone? What is this now? But I guess it's like, Elise was very quick to define what it is. I mean, you're familiar with it, so maybe it's just me.
I'm familiar with it, but I think I use it wrong. Like, I think I'm like, is it you are Schadenfreude, or you have shade? I don't know, but I know what it means. And I think all the housewives are like that. I mean, but especially Ramona.
Many of them.
Yes.
Well, all of this caused a row because it wasn't done in private. I have no idea why these women expect to have private conversations where they tell each other terrible things about the other woman. Who is going to participate in that?
Right.
It's like if I pulled you to a side to have some choice words with you privately about your personal character and how I view you so poorly. What is the point? How is that any different?
With a camera there.
Yeah.
There'll be a camera. Right.
It's ridiculous. Dorinda says, well, do well, but not better than me. You like other people's misfortunes and you're a coward. And she's calling Ramona this in her own home, which is so tactless and not classy. I just really thought Dorinda had more class than that, than to go into somebody else's home and make an attempt to assassinate their character.
Yes, and I thought Dorinda was just smarter than that. Like, she's just looking so bad. Like, there's no way to spin it. Yeah, I thought she was smarter than that and better than that. But Ramona just was pure Ramona. Like, when she said the thing about Richard, I was like, she's just awful.
I don't. Yeah, Richard's gonna die tomorrow. She said, or something like that.
That was like anniversary of his death. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They were both awful, like absolutely awful to each other. The things they were saying to each other were disgusting. But when Ramona said that, I was like, oh my God, like that is so below the belt. I guess it was the anniversary of his death.
I know. Yeah, and then later she's patting herself on the back saying like, oh, well, when she's like this, you just got to let her go. I did such a good job diffusing the situation. Yeah, and she threw them out of her house. Sonia left too. They're fighting in the hallway, which I appreciated because that was a real moment.
Yes.
I really appreciated that because it wasn't fake. But Dorinda, she's just upset that Ramona didn't support her at the spa. Apparently, that's what it comes down to in this episode, which is such like a nonsense problem. But it's so much more than that.
Yes, so much more than that. She needs to watch this back with someone who's going to tell her the truth of what's going on so she can feel better and sort herself out.
That life coach has no clue what the real story is.
No clue. And she so she was mad that Ramona didn't support her slaughtering Tinsley at the winery. Like, and then, yeah, she brought up the past, but like, then you brought it back to her. Like, they both should not be fighting with each other they're both fighting with each other about the same thing that they hit below the belt, and they do.
They made up so fast. This group hug and all this stuff, like minutes later. And like, I'll just say, this is why I enjoy this show, because far less things have happened on other cities, particularly on the West Coast of the United States. And they go on for ages. And they do not have the magnitude and the depth that this one moment had by an elevator somewhere on the Upper East Side.
Yes.
And so I appreciate it. Like, look, nothing was solved in this episode. Fake as ever, as far as like, you know, people being cool with one another. Nothing is settled. Dorinda still is not acknowledging or taking accountability for her behavior. So we're still standing in the same place, but at least we don't have women not speaking to each other. They're just continuing to be fake, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And they'll film again next. Yeah. They'll keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elise is outrageous. Like, she always has to, like, I feel like I can read her mind. Like, she hears Schadenfreude and she's like, I have something to say about that. Maybe it'll make it. Like, maybe I'll make the cut. Like, so she says her thing. And then, like, at the end, she, like, tries to come up with, like, a funny line about Mother Teresa. Like, it wasn't funny. Nobody laughed. But she's like, maybe it'll make it into the show. Like, she's so desperate to be on the show.
I am still surprised that she's had as much airtime as she has, which is basically, I call her like the under 5, you know? Yes. You know, we get like, you know, she's kind of like the waiter on a soap opera. Like, they'll come over at the beginning and the end of the scene. Like, like, okay, hi, hello. You're not really part of this, but you're in the background. Hi. And then she's got her confessionals, which, I mean, good for her. But I don't know if anyone's really that curious to go inside the mind of Elise. We don't know anything about her. So, like, I don't really care what her take on Luann is. Luann's drinking. Like, I mean, I don't care about anyone's take on Luann's drinking at all anymore.
Right. Oh, yes. No, who cares? But do you think Elise was like, that they would have made her a housewife if the season went different? Is that why they gave her confessionals?
I still think she's being tested out, which I think is fine. You know, it's fine. I don't feel like I'm missing out much by not having her, you know,
hold not an apple.
Yeah, no, and it's just, again, it's a Ramona thing. It's a Ramona, like, you know, I want to get my friend on the show. And it's like, this is what we get.
Yes.
This is what we get. But you can bet, because Bravo is so obsessed with lowering the median age, that we're going to get more of Leah's friends who are like, happen to just be like 32, you know, like they're going to bring it, which will not work. It will not match with this crowd, but they will try, because they always do.
Right.
Final thoughts.
Let's go into our final thoughts in these last 2 minutes here on the rundown. My final thought is, I'm dying to see how the Real Housewives of New York are going to portray Newport, Rhode Island, somewhere that's near and dear to me. And I'm just curious to see that no one, except for that lousy show Game of Crowns, has ever really gone into Rhode Island. So I'm curious to see how they're going to depict it.
Yes, you're going to feel like the way I feel when I watch Jersey. Like, yeah. I know that place. It's going to, I can't wait to hear you talk about it next week.
I'm excited for it. I think it's a really, I'm glad that they're going there. It makes sense. You know, really is just up the road. And I was always surprised they never went to Block Island. That's another place that a lot of New Yorkers go to. So I was just surprised it took this long, but I'm in.
Yeah. I just want to see Dorinda, like, just get better, because I do like her. Like, I think Ramona's crazy and I don't like her at her core, but I like Dorinda at her core. Like, I think she's funny. I think she's smart. I think she's interesting. I think I like her, and it's just sad to see her so in denial and just like hurting other people. So I hope it gets better for her. And just watching the previews, oh man, Leah, that's going to be interesting.
I do worry about Dorinda, because she's unraveling, but also her image is really being tainted week by week. Like, you know, I get people can, you know, forgive like, I mean, God, Bethany was miserable for every frame of the last few years, and people still loved her. But I just feel like, Dorinda's saying things that are really hard to defend.
Yeah.
So I worry about how people are going to perceive her at the end of this when she does have her head on straight.
Yeah.
Again, I want to echo what you said. She's a therapist. That life coach isn't doing nothing for her, doing jack for her.
Yes. He's really, yeah.
No. Well, Fern, thank you for coming on. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you. I miss you, and thank you for doing this. You're keeping the world entertained.
I hope so. I hope more people will discover these rundowns because I enjoy doing them.
Yeah, so much fun. Feels like the old days.
Yeah. Thanks, Fern.
This has been Grant's Rant Small Talk, Real Housewives of New York City Rundown. Want more? Join the full conversation on Grant's Rant Hollywood Talk podcast.